What's up, Technubber here for Server.pro, and welcome to this tutorial for configuring and customizing Iridium Skyblock. Because this plugin is so massive, this is the second video in our short series on this plugin. See other videos in the description down below. To catch you up, in the previous video we talked about installing and setting up the Iridium Skyblock mod. That video was just the basics. In this video, we'll be doing some deep diving into some more interesting bits. We'll also be jumping between the game and the configuration files, so make sure to have both of them open. If you haven't already, head across to your Server.pro dashboard, then to the Files section, followed by Plugins and Iridium Skyblock. And of course, on top of this, don't forget to run /is reload after making any changes to any of the plugin files to reload the plugin settings from the config. To begin, let's hop onto an island using /is create. Everything on your island is worth something. Place something expensive like a diamond block and your island value will increase. Destroy it and the island value will decrease. We can see the current value with /is value. As you can see, it's currently on 0. We'll place, say, 5 of these blocks, and it should be on 50. Place another 5, and you'll notice that we level up our island. This was, of course, completing a mission, which we touched on in the previous video. We can see missions with /is missions. It was the competitor mission over here that we've now leveled up to level 2. Breaking blocks, as I mentioned, will of course lower the island value. Completing missions awards us with in-game currency and crystals, another currency used by the plugin. Where exactly do we change the value that these blocks have? Well, in the server files, we have a BlockValues.json file. Inside of here, you'll see the value that each block has and their value in the world. Diamond blocks have a value of 10 each. You can of course raise this number, lower this number, or add more blocks to this list over here that you'd like to consider valuable. After placing 10 diamond blocks, we ranked up our island's level, meaning the level cost about 100 points. We'll get to customizing that number later on. Adding or removing blocks is as simple as removing the line and a semicolon, or simply adding a semicolon and a new line and entering a block name. It's really simple. Next up, we have the boosters.json file over here. Boosters cost crystals, and I can give myself some crystals using /is give crystals, followed by my username and the number of crystals. I can then run /is booster to bring up the booster menu. Inside of here, we have mobs, crops, experience, and flight. Right-clicking or left-clicking an item will purchase and activate the booster. I'll go ahead and purchase the flight booster. As you can see, it's activated immediately. I'll go into game mode survival, and of course I'm not able to fly. We can toggle this for the island with /is fly. This is a command that players can run and it gives them a creative flight. Though note it's different to creative flight as it's time limited. As soon as the booster runs out, the players will simply drop out of the sky. The boosters.json file lets us customize how long each booster is active, as well as the cost in crystals or in-game currency, the name of the actual booster, as well as some settings for the item that's representing the booster in the shop. You can of course change the material, the amount, the title, and the lore for the actual item itself, as well as where it's positioned relatively in the in-game menu. The border.json is really self-explanatory. While players can use the in-game shop to customize what their island border looks like by using /is border, you can of course set the default value inside of the border.json file, simply by swapping out the top line over here. You can also enable or disable colors entirely, such as the ability to turn it off, or maybe set all of these to false so that it will always be set to off and players won't have a choice. Who knows, it's really up to you and what you'd like your server aesthetic to be. Commands.json contains all of the commands for this plugin. It's really long. This is mainly used to customize the commands that players can run to get a specific action to happen. For example, /is home takes you to the spawn point of your island. As mentioned before, let's go ahead and type /is home. There we go. But what happens if we'd like to make this a bit easier? Well, currently, home is the only saved alias. We can add another command to run this same command over here by simply adding a comma and on a new line inside of quotation marks, typing in another command. I'll enter, say, h. I'll go ahead and save the file, head back to the game, and run /is reload to reload the plugin settings from the config files. Then, if I run /ish, I'll be taken to the home point of my island, as well as /is home. We've now added two commands that do the same thing, although one of them's a lot easier to type. If you'd like to limit access to the actual commands, you can add a permission in the permission section. You can see an example of this under the reload command for the plugin. Players need this permission over here to run this command. And on top of this, you can enable or disable whether a player can run this. If this is set to false, then players will need opt to run these commands, and whether it's enabled at all. Pretty simple. The next file we have is the config.json file. This is the main storage for all of the plugin's flags, and you won't really be customizing this unless you know what you're looking for. As an example, on line 65 over here, we have the default permissions section. Obviously, you don't want visitors being able to break blocks on other players' islands, but maybe you'd like them to pick up items that are dropped for them. You can change this, for example, by finding the visitor section and changing the pickup items from false to true. When it's set to true, visitors on other islands will be able to pick up blocks and items that are dropped to them. By default, they wouldn't be able to do this. At the top, we also have some placeholder values up here. These will be used when you're using other plugins, assuming you have the placeholder API plugin installed as well. On line 49, we have distance. If you'd like players to not see other islands, this is something you'd raise. This means that the center of islands will be 151 blocks away from each other. Why 151? Well, the max size for an island is 150 blocks. We can customize this later. This means that there will only be a 2-block space between island borders, as each island of 150 blocks has a 1-block space on every side. Value per level on line 151 is set to 100. The number here is how many points you need before your island levels up in-game. This links back to the BlockValues section that we touched on earlier. Most of the space in this config is taken up by the island biome section. Players can change their island's biome at any time with the in-game menu, but this section here holds all of the in-game currency prices, the crystal prices, as well as the icons for each biome type, which by default are all set to grass block. And at the very bottom, we have the blocked entity section. This can be used to prevent griefing and other forms of game breaking. Primed TNT stops TNT from being used in Skyblock, for example. For the next section of this video, there are 2 files that we'll cover because they serve very similar purposes. Inventories.json is a file you'll most likely not mess around with at all. In a nutshell, this file lets you customize how almost every GUI looks in the game, from changing the number of item slots in a menu, as seen by all of the 27s over here, to customizing the icons and localization in the menus below that. These run through to the end of the file. Messages.json is a very similar file as it contains only localization for the plugin. You'll only really mess around with this if you're trying to change the language of the plugin or subtle changes that better suit your server's aesthetics. Missions.json contains all of the missions, rewards, and the rest that can be completed by players in-game. We've already done some progression throughout this tutorial series, and if we wanted to change rewards, this is where we'd do it. You can change the name of missions, rewards, and info when the player hovers over an item that represents the mission in the in-game menu. On top of this, we can get way more advanced by looking at how these missions are actually made. You'll notice experience for the treasure hunter mission, value increase for the competitor mission, block break followed by a bunch of different conditions or blocks under the miner and farmer section, entity kill under hunter, fish catch under fisherman, block place under builder, etc, etc. You can get real deep into customization, making challenges as customizable as you see fit, though this will take a lot of time and dedication. So conditions for block break are the only blocks that are counted towards this mission. And if we wanted to do something simple, we could of course add another level to a mission up here, such as the treasure hunter mission. You can of course make these more difficult to get, add more levels, or simply make easier, smaller to get increments for levels. So I'll add a 4th one here by copying a block as such, including the semicolon, and I'll paste it in, change the level to 4, add a different crystal reward, add a different vault award, and change the value required to actually receive this mission. So I could set it to, say, 100,000. This way, players will always have something to work forward to in the future. Then we have the Schematics folder. Inside of here, we have a couple of files, though if you don't know what these are, that's fine. We'll head back a folder and head into the schematics.json file. Basically, schematics are what our worlds will be spawned using. When you type /iscreate, the island that you're standing on is one of those schematics. If you know how to edit schematic files or where to get them, you can really get into customizing the experience players will have when they start playing your Skyblock. They can be made with external programs, for example, or something as simple as world edit. The schematics.json file over here has some of the basic setup for the schematic system, including X, Y, and Z offsets and extra offsets for the overworld and the nether skyblocks. You can also set the default biome in here, as well as changing the actual schematic file by changing the name over here, assuming that you've already uploaded them into your schematics folder if you're going to be using your own schematics. As a very simple example, let's take the nether schematic and let players spawn into a world like that first. So I'll go ahead and copy everything between the opening and closing brackets as such. I'll copy it, I'll add a semicolon at the very end of this, and I'll paste it in once again. Then let's go ahead and swap out the nether and the overworld schematics as such, and I'll change the name from default island to say nether island, and the slot to say 2. Doesn't matter what the slots are, it's just the positions of these inside of the menu when someone types /iscreate. As long as they're unique, that's fine. I'll go ahead and click save, head back into the game, and I'll run /isreload to reload the settings from the config files. Then /isdelete to delete the island that I'm currently standing on. I'll confirm this, and I'll type in /iscreate. Of course, it's telling me I'm in a cooldown, so I'll use /isbypass, then iscreate. Now you can see that we have the default island as well as the nether island. Spawning into the nether island, you'll notice that it looks a little bit different. Now, of course, this doesn't serve much of a purpose, and it's not that useful, but it's just an example. Let's carry on down the list. Next up, we have shop.json. This file contains everything from what items are represented as to their buy cost, sell cost, crystal costs, and location in the menu, as well as what they look like and what they read when you hover over them, and the number of items that you either get or sell when you buy or sell the item. If you haven't already seen this section, in-game you can type in /isshop and you'll be able to buy and sell items anywhere in here. On top of this, it's very easy to add your own items to this list. Simply copy a block and paste it in under the correct section, such as blocks, food, etc, etc. Just know that customizing this file will take quite a bit of time. Next up, we have upgrades.json. This file contains settings for the /is upgrade menu. We saw this before, where we can upgrade the island size, the member count, island warps, and island generator. In here, you'd only really change the cost of upgrades for the in-game menu, or of course add more levels or steps to each of the upgrade menus. So once again, I could add a 4th level here, make it slightly more expensive, and change the max size for the world to say 200 from 150. Speaking of, this is the place where we set the world size that I mentioned earlier. Remember that the world size was set to 151, meaning that there's a 1-block border on every single island, and that's how far away they'll spawn from each other. Changing this to say 200, you'll need to set the border to at least 201 if you'd like a 1-block space between islands. Otherwise, having the limit that we mentioned earlier in the config file smaller than the one here can cause some major issues when players are playing next to each other. So just remember that this setting here is linked to the previous setting from this tutorial. Scrolling down, under Island Ore Upgrades, we see a bunch of different ores here. Basically, these ores will randomly spawn if we create ourselves a cobblestone generator. As such, you can change the chance that each ore will have to spawn instead of, say, cobblestone by customizing the values in this file. The higher that a number is, the more likely it is to spawn in, and the lower, the exact opposite effect. And finally, we have just a couple of files left. The sql.json file lets you link to an SQL server if you'd like to store the plugin's settings and information in there. But usually, you'll leave this as is, the default settings, to use the Iridium Skyblock.db file here instead of having to set up your own SQL database. And finally, we have the stackable.json file that unfortunately I can't find information on anywhere on the internet, so unfortunately I can't really tell you what this file does until it's been documented in the official plugins wiki. Which is a great segue to tell you that if you'd like to find any more information on this plugin, or you're confused with anything, the best place to find information is the plugin's wiki page. You can head across there by finding the spigot page for the plugin and clicking the wiki section over here. It'll take you across to this section of their GitHub, explaining exactly what all these different files do, as well as information related to them. Though you can see most of these are still work in progress, so they'll be added to as time goes on. You'll find a lot more information here, as well as reference for different commands, etc, if you find yourself confused throughout any of these tutorials. But anyways, I hope you found this tutorial helpful. A bit of my tree burned down there, so we'll go ahead and ignore that happened. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you have any video suggestions, leave them in the comments below. If you're having issues with anything, contact our support team. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Ciao!